The wind howled low over the plains, carrying dust and secrets across the cracked earth of Montana Territory. Boone McCallister stood at the edge of his barn, eyes narrowed against the golden glare of late afternoon, shotgun slung easy over one shoulder, though there hadn't been game in weeks. The land was thirsty. So was the truth. Asterisk, a coyote's yelp pierced the silence, then a second sound followed, unexpected, a thud, heavy, human. Asterisk, Boone turned. 10 paces from the fence line, where the shadow of his water barrel fell, lay a girl. Small frame, long braids, blood spilling bright as berries onto the pale soil. Her breath was ragged. Her hands scraped raw, clawed at the dirt as though she'd crawled half a mile to die in sight of a stranger's gate. Asterisk, Boone moved fast, kneeling beside her, feeling the war-honed rhythm of panic settle deep in his chest. She was no more than 17, maybe 18, her face marked with fading paint and fresh bruises. Her dress was torn. A bullet wound, deep and angry, festered in her side. Asterisk, easy now, Boone murmured. His voice was gruff but steady. Ain't no one gonna hurt you here. Asterisk, she blinked up at him, eyes glassy but locked on his with something ancient in them, fear, maybe, or defiance. Or both. Water, she rasped. He fetched it. No hesitation. Just filled the tin cup and held it to her lips, careful not to spill a drop. Her mouth trembled as she drank. When she leaned back, the sun caught a red bead rolling down her temple. Not sweat, blood. Asterisk, Boone carried her into his house, laying her gently on the cot near the stove. He worked, quickly washed the wound, pulled. The slug, with shaking fingers, stitched it using thread meant for torn saddle leather. She passed out halfway through. He didn't stop. By nightfall she was still breathing. Boone didn't sleep. He sat in the rocking chair with his Colt resting on his thigh, watching the shadows crawl across the floorboards. Outside, the prairie. Wind groaned, and wolves howled somewhere far off. Asterisk, something about her face stirred an old ache. Years back, he'd seen faces like hers on the battlefield, young, unready, dying far from home because men with power called it necessary. The girl's face was the face of the forgotten. He wouldn't forget her. In the early hours before dawn, she stirred again. What's your name? Boone asked, voice quiet. Asterisk, her cracked lips barely moved. Aisha? Asterisk, he repeated it softly. Aisha. Asterisk, then he heard it, hoofs, faint but growing louder. The ground seemed to tremble beneath the sound, dozens of them, maybe more. Not a posse, not riders from town. These hoofbeats came fast, sure, synchronized like thunder rolling toward judgment. Asterisk, Boone stood, rifle in hand, not out of fear, but readiness. He stepped outside and looked east. On the ridgeline, silhouetted against the bruised dawn, riders emerged, dozens of them, painted and proud. The girl hadn't come alone. Asterisk, he turned back to the house. Ayesha's eyes were open now. Tracking him, asterisk, you brought them? He asked. Asterisk, she didn't answer. She didn't have to. The wind carried their war cries. Dust coiled up from the earth as the riders descended, a red haze stirring beneath their galloping hooves. Boone McCallister stood motionless on his porch, shotgun lowered but ready, eyes fixed on the line of warriors spilling like wildfire over the ridge. There were more than he first thought, men in bone necklaces and bear claw pendants, faces painted in ash and ochre, each mounted on horses draped in feathers and leather. Asterisk, Boone didn't move to run. He didn't call for help. He simply waited, jaw tight, every breath measured. Asterisk, the lead rider dismounted first, a tall figure with silver streaks in his braids and the weathered face of a man who'd seen too many winters and buried too many suns. He was bare-chested, scars stretching like riverbeds across his skin. His gaze pinned Boone with an ancient calm, a stillness that felt heavier than any words. Asterisk, she lives? The man asked in thick, steady English. Asterisk, Boone nodded once. Inside. Shot bad, I did what I could. A pause hung between them, taut as a stretched rope. I am Chaska, the man said. Brother to her mother, blood to her father, and you gave water to the dying. Asterisk, Boone said nothing but something. In his shoulders eased, Asterisk, Chaska walked past him without another word. The others followed silent as ghosts. Inside, Boone heard murmured words in a tongue he didn't understand, followed by the creak of floorboards as they surrounded the cot. He stayed on the porch, watching the sky churn into morning. The smell of horse sweat, dust, and old tension hung heavy in the air. After a long while, Chaska emerged again, the girl's small hand resting limp in his. Ayesha's eyes fluttered open, locking on Boone for a brief second before closing again. She speaks your name, Chaska said, his voice unreadable. She says you did not run, you gave her fire and drink. Boone shrugged. Did what any man oughta. Chaska's expression didn't change, but his next words carried steel. No, white men do not do what you did. Most would leave her, to die or finish what the bullet started. Boone looked down at his boots. She came to my land. That makes her my responsibility. Chaska studied him for a long moment. Then he stepped close, lowering his voice. The ones who did this do? You know their names? Boone's eyes darkened. Kane Riley, Jed Garrow, Buck Mervyn. The last was the sheriff's boy Toby Lanes, all of 'em drunk. All of 'em cowards. Chaska's face remained like carved stone. He turned and mounted his horse in one fluid motion. You gave her water. We will repay you in blood. Before Boone could speak, Chaska raised his hand, and the tribe wheeled around, vanishing into the horizon with the same fierce silence they'd arrived in. Dust curled behind them like smoke from a warpath. Inside, Ayesha stirred again. Boone sat beside her, setting his rifle aside. They're coming for them, aren't they? He asked quietly. Her lips barely moved, but the word was clear. Yes. Boone stared at the floor. He'd seen enough blood to know how it ended. But maybe some men deserved what was coming. Still, a knot twisted in his gut. The sheriff's boy Toby was young, stupid maybe, but not evil. That kind of line, once crossed, didn't care about intent. Boone leaned back in his chair and watched the shadow of the girl's breath rise and fall. He knew what justice looked like in the territories. It didn't wear a badge. It rode a painted horse and came with fire in its eyes. And it was already on its way. The first bullet came before sunrise. Buck Mervyn's body was found hanging upside down from the Tetheridge water tower. Blood dried in streaks across his shirt. Arrows pinned his hands wide like a warning nailed to the sky. No note, no signature. Just silence, and the message was clear. Sheriff Lane stood beneath the corpse with his hat clutched tight, jaw grinding. Savages, he muttered. This is war. Boone McCallister lit a cigarette by the edge of the saloon that morning, eyes shadowed beneath his brim. War started when your boy and his pack shot that girl, he said without looking at the sheriff. The sheriff's glare shifted. You trying to say this is on us? Boone blew smoke. No, I'm saying you brought thunder and now it's rain and fire. By midday, Kane Riley turned up next half buried at the edge of Bitter Creek, his face swarmed with ants. The townsfolk stopped pretending it was coincidence. They shuttered windows, boarded doors, sent wagons east before nightfall. Fear spread like prairie fire. Jed Garrow went missing next. No body, no blood. Just a burned-out cabin and horse tracks heading west. That night, Toby Lane stood on Boone's porch, eyes bloodshot, fists trembling. I didn't shoot her, he said. I never raised my gun? Boone didn't speak, just watched. The boy unravel. I wanted to stop, Toby continued, voice cracking. I swear it, but I was scared. Kane had that look in his eye. Jed was already shooting. What was I supposed to do? Right away, Boone answered flatly. Like, you did after, Toby's voice dropped to a whisper. They'll come for me, won't they? Boone studied him a moment, then nodded once. They already are, the boy's shoulders sagged like a man twice his age. What should I do? Boone glanced toward the open plains, where wind whispered secrets through the tall grass. Face it, ride to them, speak your truth, maybe they'll hear it. Asterisk Toby swallowed. And if they don't? Asterisk, then you die with some honor. The boy left just before dawn, alone, heading west beneath a blood-orange sky. That evening, Boone rode into town. The saloon was empty, except for a barkeep with a double barrel under the counter and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Boone took a seat, poured himself a whiskey, and waited. He didn't wait long. The door creaked open and in walked Chaska, his war paint dull under lamplight, his eyes cold as canyon rock. Behind him, two younger warriors, both silent, both steady. Asterisk Boone didn't reach for his gun, just nodded. You're here for the last one, Asterisk Chaska stared at him. The boy? He is not like the others, Asterisk? No, Boone agreed. But he didn't stop him neither. Asterisk Chaska turned his gaze to the flame dancing in the whiskey lamp. A man is measured not by his fear, but what he does after. Asterisk Boone stood slowly. Then give him the chance. Chaska didn't speak, but he didn't disagree. Outside, the wind carried the howl of a lone coyote, long, low, mournful, a sound the plains knew well. Asterisk Boone walked beside the warriors as they returned to the trail. Somewhere ahead, the boy would either find forgiveness or the end of a rope woven by his own silence. Asterisk, the land didn't care. It just remembered. Asterisk and Boone knew the reckoning wasn't over yet. The morning after Toby Lanes rode west, the wind changed. Asterisk, it came colder, lower, sweeping across the plains with a whisper like distant drums. Boone McCallister stood beside his horse, saddle cinched tight, as the prairie rolled silent beneath the growing light. Asterisk, he didn't know if the boy was still alive. Asterisk, he didn't know if forgiveness had met him halfway, or if justice had buried him beneath the cottonwoods. But Boone rode anyway. The trail led through pine and shale, past ghost camps and dry creeks. By midday he found the tribe camped near the old river bend, warriors standing like shadows among the trees. Boone dismounted and walked forward. Unarmed, they let him pass. At the center of the camp sat Chaska, cross-legged by the fire. Aisha stood nearby, her wound healed, her expression harder now. A warrior's expression. She no longer looked 17. She looked like someone who had seen the truth of the world and survived it. Asterisk Toby Lanes? Boone asked, voice steady. Asterisk Chaska looked up, but it was Aisha who answered. He spoke the truth. With shaking hands, yes. But he spoke it. Asterisk Boone nodded slowly. And asterisk, he carries shame now, she said. That is punishment enough. Asterisk Chaska added, we spared him, not for his sake, but for yours. Asterisk Boone didn't respond right away. He just looked into the fire, the way it flickered low, tired, fading like the rage that had burned through this land for days. Asterisk, you've done what law never could. Boone finally said. Asterisk Chaska's voice was dry. Law wears a badge. Justice wears scars? Asterisk, they shared silence for a while. Not peace, not yet, but something close. Asterisk Aisha stepped forward, something small in her hands. She held it out. Boone's tin cup, the one he'd given her water from, cleaned, polished, tied with a braid of white horsehair. Asterisk, for the first act of kindness, she said. Asterisk Boone took it, rough fingers brushing hers. He gave a small nod. I hope you never need saving again. Asterisk, she met his gaze. I don't. Asterisk, later that evening, Boone watched the tribe ride out quiet and proud, fading into the dust like a passing storm. Ayesha glanced back once, then disappeared into the wild that had raised her. Boone returned to his ranch alone. The gate creaked the same. The wind still carried dust across the porch. But something in him had shifted like a bullet removed. A wound no longer festering. He hung the tin cup by the doorway. The next morning, he found Toby Lanes riding up the trail, hat in hand, eyes hollow. Asterisk, I'm heading south, the boy said. Don't reckon there's anything left for me here. Asterisk Boone nodded. Good. Asterisk, you think I'll ever outrun it? Asterisk Boone looked him over. Don't try. Carry it. Make it mean something. Asterisk Toby nodded, turned his horse and disappeared. Toward the horizon, smaller with every hoofbeat, Boone watched until the dust swallowed him whole. That night, the sky burned pink, the land quiet again. Boone sat on his porch, hat tilted low, pipe smoke curling like old ghosts around his head. Asterisk, the war was over. Asterisk, not the one with rifles and arrows, but the one between silence and doing what's right. Asterisk, somewhere out there, blood still stained. The earth and justice rode without a name. Asterisk, but here, for now, there was stillness. Asterisk, the kind only earned when the last fire dies slow. And leaves the night behind. Asterisk.